Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for this warm welcome. I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for joining us one more day. This is our last day of the summit. Many sad faces, right? Like, hey, we don't want this to end. We know you don't want this to end, but things need to end someday. And today is our last day. Thank you so much to the more than 200 people that registered. And thank you to everybody who has been participating in these past couple days. Hopefully, you'll stick around for the rest of the day. I am Taide Morales from Hispanics in Philanthropy, working with the Migration and Forced Displacement Program. With their support, as well as with the support of Wingo and Kubadili, we are working together for this event. We want to see your happy faces. We want all of you to be happy, and hopefully, you all learned something from this. I have my little Einstein here. Hopefully, you can get some ideas too for HIP, and particularly for the Migration and Forced Displacement Program. These days are really special with so many people, so many organizations, so many foundations that are participating here. We are sure that today we will complete this learning process, this learning day. This is just the beginning of several processes that we will be following throughout the year. So we'll keep connected. You won't get rid of me so easily. And again, everything has to come to an end. So this is our last session on this stage. We have Laura Lemus, Eladia Brosart, and Gerardo Talavera. And we have Elly, who will be the facilitator. We will be talking about organizational leadership during the pandemic and beyond. The pandemic must not stop us. All right, big round of applause. What an opening. This is so nice, so much energy. Thank you, Taide. Thank you for this wonderful opening for this third day. We are really eager. Oh, Ariel is here. Then I imagine Flor will be here too. We have plenty of expectations for this panel. We are anxious and nervous, and we want to share and contribute something. This is some sort of, informal conversation over coffee or mate. I don't know what you're drinking. Laura, what are you drinking? I see that Ari, what are you drinking? Like coffee and milk? I am representing Mexican artist Frida Kahlo. How about you, Gerardo? What do you have there? I'm drinking tea. I just forgot my cup. I'm using a thermos. Good for you, Gerardo. The point here is to create a space to share experiences, some ideas, some knowledge that we might have based on what we have lived and on what we have learned. So, this is an invitation to share. Of course, if someone wants to join us on stage, you can ask us to do so. Please participate. Please let us know if something that we are discussing resonates with you. You can write that on the chat. We see that there are many people on the other side, so hopefully you'll take advantage of this and you will really make the most of this. So again, you can participate, you can ask your questions and share your reflections. I would also like to invite you to bring something to drink. We picked our drinks, something that we're comfortable with for this informal conversation. So we think it would be ideal for everybody to have something nice to drink or eat. So if you haven't done that yet, right now you could use this moment to take your mobile phone to the kitchen and get something to drink while we introduce ourselves, maybe. Of course, if you want to share on the chat like what you're drinking or what made you come here and how you're getting ready to enjoy the afternoon. I mean, at least here in Argentina it's already 1 p.m., so that's also a strong invitation for you to share everything about this space and to really build what the virtual world allows us to do, right? Like, on the one hand we have people for many different countries, but on the other hand we really miss that personal part, right? Like, if it was a personal, in person event, then we would have been inside a room talking to people, having this drink in person. Right, we would have shared, like, even hallway conversations during these 3 days, and like this sort of coffee break conversations, providing some ideas and just letting the conversation flow. This model hinders that a little bit, but we trust that the chat function will work. There's about 50 of us right now, so hopefully we'll be able to have a very smooth and dynamic conversation, right? We know that there is not like 4 or 5 truths to be told. It's more like there's 50 different experiences, and we would really love to have this exchange back and forth. Don't be shy today, and don't use this just like a radio a broadcast, right? Our point is for you to really focus on what we're saying, to really reflect on everyday situations, engage actively, make notes, really think of what we're discussing here, and really what you learn from all that to have more impact. So, the invitation really is to make the most of this time that we have. Some people on the chat are already sharing with us, what they're drinking. For example, some people are saying sweet mate. Good, Yanni. Good to have you here. Let us know who you are and where you're from. You can also share your expectations with us. So that's also good for us, right? For when we start our conversations, we can maybe focus on those expectations you have when you get here. That would be wonderful for us. We have also folks from Minneapolis in the US and from New York. Many people are saying hi. That's so nice. Amalia is here. I don't know where she is. I don't know what her expectations are. There is Andre, there is Laura, Vero, Rox. That's so nice. So many colleagues that were facilitating different spaces. I was part of some talks. There's Lisa. There are so many people that, as Ariel was saying, we have come across during these few days. We have Bochi and Flor, who's kind of lost in the universe. She's probably struggling with her internet connection to come back to this session. Oh, someone saying hi from Washington, from Mexico City, New York, Minneapolis, Querétaro. Wow, that's wonderful. This is getting really nice. All right, would you like to start introducing yourselves? Like to get the rhythm going while the rest of the folks who are here start introducing themselves as well? Who would like to start? Well, Adi, your mic is on, so I think it's up to you now. All right, I'll start. Thank you, Elly. I'll make sure to turn off my mic later. Hi, how are you doing? It's really nice to share this panel with you, Gerardo, Lauda, Elly, Poggi. I mean, this is really, really nice. I'm with Kubadili. I'm sure you are aware of this, but what we are trying to do here is to really be a partner for anyone trying to transform their organization with a focus on the social organization, governance, making things agile and trying to find new ways from now on, right? With programs, working together, interacting with the different collectives we work with. I am representing the more than 50 coaches and change agents in Kubadili. We have this experience. We have worked with organizations for years. I am really happy to be here with you today. And I'm here to tell you some things, but I'm here to listen. For example, Laura, I would love to hear from you. Who are you? What brings you here? Of course. Thank you very much. It's noon in New York here. I work in New York City for a philanthropic service organization that connects different philanthropic organizations focusing on the environment. I also represent the Leaders Program by HIP to develop Latino leadership in the US, working in philanthropy. I am Mexican, born in Mexico, but I have lived in New York City ever since I was 6 months old. So, as I said before, I am representing my native land here with Frida and some coffee. And it is an honor to use my primary language, which is Spanish. Sometimes it's a little hard, but right now I'm very comfortable, and it's an honor to be here with you all the way from New York to Argentina. Thank you very much, and it's really an honor. Thank you, Laura. We told you when we were talking that you are super fluent, so what you say is very, very clear, and you are very welcome. Now, Gerardo, Flor, could you tell us briefly where you're coming from? I think Flor's connection is not very good. Thank you, Flor. There were some connection problems. Gerardo, thank you. First of all, I want to say that it's a pleasure to share this stage with each one of you. I am so happy to see so much good energy. These spaces, these human rights forums are really important. My name is Gerardo Talavera. I coordinate the Casa Refugiados program. We work in Mexico City. We work on developing integration processes for refugees. And for me, being able to work as a team has always been very interesting because, as I will say later on, sometimes we are somewhere, but we identify with, a different place, or part of our identity is somewhere else. So I live in Mexico City. I was born here, but I do come from that complexity of migration. And that cheers me up, right? To know that we can contribute from that because we are what we inherit, but also what we become along the way. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gerardo. I am very, very happy. My name is Eladia. Everybody calls me Elly. I have been working in people management for 20 years, more or less. I am so happy to work with you today on this event with such a wonderful purpose. I want to share with you and reflect with you. And again, we will invite you to participate. Please ask questions. Please reflect with us based on your knowledge, on your realities, on your needs, and the like. Thank you very much. All right, so let's start. Some experiences. And what would you like to share? Lauda, would you like to start? I can start. I have some examples, some advice, some stories that I would like to share. I'll do one, and then I'll give the floor to my colleagues just to maintain this conversation and to keep it going. First of all, I would like to start talking about the way in which my organization supports my leadership every day before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and hopefully post COVID as well. First of all, I would like to talk about leadership and leadership development and the programs that are out there for to support that. My organization supports me with my professional and personal development by allowing me to participate in programs such as the HIP Leaders Program. So, if you don't know this program, this Leaders Program is a program that creates a space to exchange experience and knowledge for Latino communities in the US. And the objective is to create a community of leaders to allow for personal and collective development. And on top of developing that leaders community, this is also for personal and professional ways to contribute to social justice. So at the end of the day, the objective of the program is to improve philanthropy by understanding how discrimination based on skin color or social class and the like are harmful. So my objective is to motivate our leaders in our organizations. That is really important. It's really, really important to support our colleagues so that they can participate in programs such as the HIP Leaders Program. And there are other programs that can allow us to continuously grow our leadership. That existed before the pandemic. And during COVID, this HIP program could be, arranged so that it became virtual. And in the future, the goal is to go back to an in person program so that we can continue with our personal and professional leadership. So that's it for now. That's so good, Laura. What you're saying about the community and about understanding, you know, to support leaders, one of the main things to do that is to help them find themselves, maybe to put them in contact with other people living similar situations and to enrich one another. It's like cross pollination. That's a term that we like. It's like being bees, right? It's like we're taking the pollen, which in this case would be good practices or just what we learn every day. And in Kubadili, we often promote practice communities within organizations, for example, eh, for any role, for any line of action in the organizations. There are always people who share an interest, for example, for a specific working subject. So we try to make them meet regularly so that they can share experiences and just to get that nurturing based on other people's experiences. And we do that also on an inter-organizational basis to encourage that shared knowledge, that shared learning process among people who are in charge, for example, of communications in social organizations or fundraising or coordinators, people in leadership roles. We have found those spaces to gather and to learn. It has provided us with many opportunities to really foster the network and to make everybody learn and get practice and get tools and get ideas used by other people, and then that makes people reflect on that. Hopefully that's something similar to what we are doing here, like while we're talking, having coffee, and just discussing leadership. Gerardo, Pochi, anything you would like to share? We talked about this before. We need to take care of the people who take care of us. These spaces are for sharing. Laura said it very well. And we need new resources to take care of the people who take care of us. We'll just lag behind and stick to old practices. We like to create personal meeting spaces that motivate us, that give us feedback. So we think about what it's like to be a part of a social organization. Yes, of course. And back to what Flor is saying, the word leadership can be complicated, especially in the civil society when you are supporting vulnerable populations and you want to start doing community work and you say the word leadership, then that is kind of like a big word, right? Because they're like, okay, aren't we supposed to be horizontal? Aren't we supposed to work like all of us? So, what we do in Casa Refugiados, we make an effort to try to build something there. We try to identify that community access. The experience that we have had is at first we need to understand one another in a community, and sometimes that is very hypocritical. Let me explain what I mean. In Mexico City, there are 24 million people, so how can you make that community like Lauda in New York or you guys in Buenos Aires? Like, how can we do that? How can we talk about community when there's 24 million or 20 million people, which is maybe most of Central America in terms of population, all in one city with inequality and many things? So, what I say is that we try to focus on the community and we try to help people to really exercise their rights, considering that this is a developing country and that there is a de facto inequality. And we need to be empathetic as well when it comes to leadership. We can have the same needs, maybe we need the same things, but in different places. So, again, this is that leadership exercise. This is very nurturing for the team. Nurturing for the team to try to resignify that because our changes pretty much every month. Sometimes there is, a politician and there's one piece of news and then there's more or less mention. I mean, this is so volatile. And what we have seen in terms of the response is communication. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much for this work. I mean, this is a little bit of what we're here, like a little bit of therapy. I have a comment here. Yeah, please go ahead. It's very interesting what Gerardo is saying. We have to because what Gerardo is saying is work, that we work with communities, vulnerable communities, but everything that he said, it's also the same thing for us because we have two communities in the north and in the south, and we go through the same situation. We are in different countries, but yes, but it's good to have your context from your place, from where you are. Yeah. Yes, we absolutely share a lot in common, and I mean, it's more than we think. So yeah, I think that yeah, this will be very present in our conversation. This way of redefining leadership, this thing that Hera was saying earlier, and this idea of how to leave behind all those old practices. That is one of the great challenges that we have, both for society and the organizations, but mainly for all organizations. Like what used to be helpful when the big changes were every 3, 5, or 10 years. But well, those practices are not commonplace nowadays. I mean, we have these realities that are constantly changing. And well, of course, all the challenges that we have with the pandemic and COVID. So yes, I do think that if we had to give a piece of advice to each other as leaders, it would be an advice of get ready to constantly unlearn and look at yourself in the mirror and see yourself being critical, not that critical, but trying to find opportunities for improvement. And what do I have to leave? What do I have to let go? What is it that I've done that brought me here, that was useful at a different moment in a different context of the organization? What can I leave behind and learn? And what's new, what's different that I can start doing? Spaces like these with colleagues, I think that they are a very good trigger to be rethinking them on a regular basis. Something that I want to do all the time is to be more quiet and to listen more. Yeah, so I take myself to silence and we have to think. I think that all these things that we're triggering from this experience that you told us, Lau, I don't know, you have any experiences that you've been doing recently, or or I'm gonna be quiet for a moment. So yes, Flor. So we should be more humans, and we should start thinking on these. Well, COVID brings us all apart. So we should be closer, even if it's not a physical closeness. She's having communication problems, internet problems. Very nice what you just said. Yes, it's beautiful. I also like that. And yeah, this thing of being more quiet. Yeah, when we designed this space, we had this goal of defining all this, of selecting that. I mean, even when we are all in different cities, to have a space where we are as close as possible, so that we can, instead of having 7 or 8 minutes for a presentation and maybe to make some references, I like this thing better, like to have a conversation, like an open, close, fluent conversation, and we want the same thing with all the 60 people that join us over here. So please feel free to let us know what's triggering all this conversation here. Share your chats with us. Feel free if you want to share something here, if you want to participate or say something, please go ahead. I love it. And I would also love to Well, what Floor just said, to show herself more human, to take care of the carer. Another practice that I'd like to discuss a little bit has to do with how those two things, how to bring those two things, um, and all this internal leadership is important. So I think that this idea of self-care has become a very popular thing recently. But what is self-care? What is real self-care? I think that individually speaking, self-care is to show ourselves as human beings, to take care of the carer, and to see the everything days that take this humanity from us, or not being able to take care of ourselves. So how do we how can we help each other? How can we help our colleagues? How can we start getting less stress? How can we help each other? I know that throughout the pandemic, many of us have worked more, or we have demanded more of our colleagues, just because we have all these option of working from home. So how can we bring new practices? How can we bring new ways of doing things better so that we can honor our humanity? In my organization, I think that, well, I take an hour for lunch, for going to the gym, or for having a routine at home, or for other colleagues, maybe to block 1 hour to take therapy or to go out to walk, or for the ones that have children, maybe they have their schedule earlier. And yeah, so self-care is something personal, and what works for me maybe does not work for you. So it's that respect that we have, and it's this space and this flexibility and the trust of having each other as human beings. Like, this hour I need this, and this hour you need this thing, and how we respect those spaces and those hours so that we can help each other in a pandemic, of course, but also through our work hours. That's something I wanted to highlight, because sometimes we say, okay, yes, self care, and we talk about it, but we truly do not explain it and the change we need to have in the culture and the organization so that this is done in a real, I mean, in reality. Well, I have a comment. I think it's a very interesting thing, because in humanitarian context of organizations, at least what I've seen here in my own reality, is that I, my screen froze. I'm sorry. Oh, sound check, sound check, sound check.
Because we are humanitarian workers. Okay. So there is a limit, that limit for self care. And it kind of becomes very blurry, especially with COVID. So this is something that made us think and even sacrifice our personal health. And I think that's very important. I just wanted to add that because that's very interesting. Yes, that really resonates, because it doesn't matter how, temporary or occasional the work we do is. This is something that we need to set limits for. You need to take care of that, and everybody has his or her own way. Some people start earlier, some people start later, or sometimes you want to be with your kids during their nap time, because most of us are working from home. So I think that if we create spaces to have these conversations about this within organizations, that is key. Maybe traditionally that's a waste of time. And many organizations I was working with started incorporating almost as a ritual that during the first 10 minutes of a meeting, you can't discuss work issues. And something that we lost with the virtual world is that sort of hallway conversations, right? Like before a meeting and after a meeting. So I think that a way to take care of ourselves is by having these conversations like, what have we seen? What did we do last night? What are you going to do this afternoon? What record have we achieved in terms of personal care? I know, did you break your running record or something like that? Anything you do, it's just some moments where you show, for example, you use your camera and show who you're with and where you are. I don't know, maybe if you want to introduce your pets or your family to your colleagues, I think that brings us closer. And I think that as leaders, we have the possibility and almost the obligation to become more human and to push for that personal. What can you tell us about that, Pochi?
So what do you think about this, Pochi? Well, let me. I was raising my hand, but well, as leaders, and this happens in my organization, is that people are committed to their families, and our collaborators, they also have to be careful. I mean, we should not wait. I mean, uh, her internet connection is very bad. I'm sorry. It's very hard to understand what she's saying. We have to take care of our employees, and if we don't take care of our employees, they'll have burnout. And as leaders as well, we have to be very careful in those situations. Yeah, Flora, that makes me think of what we saw in all these flights, and before wearing the mask, before putting the mask to someone else, you have to wear the mask. First of all, you have to wear the mask yourself. And it's the same thing when you take a scuba diving classes. And I'm not sure if we're learning this in leadership schools or in the education that we have, the college education that we have. But yes, when leading teams or organizations or collectives, yeah, I think that this idea of self-care, and also to build all together, all those agreements, all those limits, all those boundaries, or when we're working and when we're not working, our work conditions. I think that all those things help, and it's our work to define some rules, and first take care of yourself, and then you can take care of others. Hopefully, we're thinking on how to translate this into our organization. What is it that we've done recently to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others? So we invite you all that through our chat, share your experiences with us. And if it's not in a chat, use a notebook, a notepad, take a record of all the things that you like. I mean, in our organization, we're doing this, and now in the afternoon, I'm gonna tell everyone this story. Like, hey, I'm just raising awareness of these. We have to celebrate all these, and well, I don't know, maybe I came up with this idea, and it might be a good idea. Hopefully, you'll do this today, or that we have this inward look all the time of what we are celebrating, what we still need to do, what we'd like to add, and what we'd like to do different. Whoa, beautiful things that you've all brought to this discussion. I wanted to make a summary of all the chat comments. Well, we're talking here about community, and well, because the pandemic left us at home and it's forbidding some things for us to do. And yeah, mobility has been like stopped, and we have to reinvent ourselves. And yeah, we're getting spaces now and building communities, these communities for learning, all these different communities of learning and learning. I think that all these is a concept that I also wanted to be there. I wanted to resound like this humanity, this that there are no recipes. We should speak and talk all the time, and we have to know each other, the ones that are there, that are protagonists, and to be more humane. Because saying this thing of being more humane, but it's being more humane, showing ourselves as humans. When I show you my space, when I show you my reality, when I show you all my stuff over here, my pets and so forth. And yeah, we are showing you the things that we like, the things that we see. And now that we are in these last minutes, it's great to say that it was not by chance that this invitation was to go a little bit through our body and to say, I mean, it's okay if I show myself human, I'm vulnerable, and that's great. And it leads to a different connection, leads to other spaces. And well, there was something that I wanted to ask. We speak about leadership, but what happens when we don't have anyone in charge? Most organizations, or the ones that we are speaking to, we are all like mainly the same, and we're colleagues. Or but what's going on with the leadership? How do you live the leadership in your organizations? Could you tell me a little bit about that? It's hard to set limits and boundaries. Oh, I'm sorry, but I can't understand what she's saying. Well, we have to show ourselves just as we are. We have to understand the goals of the organization. And to understand the vision of the others, where they come. Well, and if I listen to my collaborators, I think that I become a better person and we reach better objectives. So it's so we should not be close to just say that we have the own truth and that's just the truth, the one that we hold. So that is a challenge, I guess. Yeah, I do like thinking about the role. I like thinking about leadership uh, away from the role that we have in the organization. I mean, understanding that the ones that have different levels and the level hierarchy levels, they have the obligation of not just being bosses, but also being leaders. Now I'm thinking that we cannot allow leadership to be there for the ones that are the hierarchical level. And I'm fully convinced that the most efficient organizations are the ones that are leaving behind all these pyramid models and that they start experimenting with more horizontal levels based on self-organization or decentralization. And in whichever organization you are, I think that you have the responsibility of pushing the things that you think that are important, meaningful, relevant, so that the work environment is the most appropriate possible. So yeah, I remember some years ago that I heard a girl saying, if I ever become a coordinator here, things will be very different because I think that these and that and these other things are not helpful for us as a team, as an organization. So please don't wait till that moment to happen. Start doing it now. Push, be respectful, start doing it respectfully. I mean, push things that need to be changed. Start doing them. Bring some experiments. I mean, bring different visions wherever you are standing. I mean, I think that we all have the responsibility of having this idea, like the Boy Scouts, like living the world, like our micro world should be a little better than the way we saw it, and not just for those that have like a big title in their signature. I mean, leadership is not something that can be just left there for leaders. I mean, that's not just for the leaders of organizations. It's for everyone. Yes, I totally agree with my colleagues, with everything you've shared. And part of this leadership is being able to handle all these different personalities. Because some of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts. And I think that part of this leadership is being able to give the right space for the ones what you are not. Like extroverts, we always say things first. We think with our mouth. We're very quick for taking decisions. But some introverts, they require some time to think, to reflect, to ask things, to question stuff. They need to take their time. And well, part of this leadership is being able to handle these two things so that both voices and all kinds of personalities can stand out and can be part of the decisions of everyone in the organization. And that is sometimes hard, like Ari is saying, like not speaking that much, or I mean, handling this or being able to speak more. Handling this has been very important, and virtually speaking now. I mean, this last year we've seen how some voices are standing out because virtuality now is helping these personalities as well. So, well, to me, I've been learning a lot about it, and I want to keep working and practicing as well. Oh, yes. I also have something to add. All the things you're saying make a lot of sense to me. They totally resonate with me. And I was listening to you and I was wondering some things. Like every time that you have this preconception of leadership and hierarchies, and leadership is linked to some kind of hierarchy. So, like in our experience, we always try to break that because it's mainly the other way around. I mean, uh, like this example that Ariel gave us, it's very funny because we have some spaces of coordination that are linked to leadership, but we could run a poll instead of having. I mean, it's the work that we all can do better, but you're doing it. So I mean that is funny because it's a little bit of that. That's where we should all be starting. It becomes the center for everyone. So we are all at leadership. So we have to coordinate all these. And now when it comes to this leadership exercise, I think that we have to come closer and mainly building communication bridges. But well, at least in our experience, it's always having a very clear goal to every time that we're building something, we should have clarity on what's our objective so that we can take the next step and share the differences that sometimes no we have differences that can't be reconciled, and maybe sometimes someone's not working or we had to change a full program or things like that. But when we are focused and we have a goal and we want to build peace, then that's when we can start building and build a path. And that's what I'm thinking. This is a huge topic, and we haven't discussed it that much. So yes, I think that this is one of the storytelling that we see around it. This idea of leadership more to the social aspect for all of us that are working in a community that we're linked to all these social spaces of associations and this kind of thing. So yeah, we think that leadership is also linked to companies and these kinds of things, and not necessarily. It also comes to social awareness. So this was very interesting, and I'm thinking a lot. This is great, Kera, what we're saying. This emergency of this work that we have as social civil society organizations. We don't have time to think about ourselves, to think as a team, to think of ourselves as an organization, to think of the role of leadership. So yes, I think that we have the obligation here. That's the opposite. Since our purpose is so important, we cannot allow ourselves to neglect some other organizational aspect. I remember that one of the first workshops that we organized here at Covadile, and the prehistory, we were not Covadile yet. It was a leadership, agile leadership course, and there was a coordinator of one of the programs, and someone that works here in these educational programs in Buenos Aires. She did not stop crying for quite a long time. I mean, the second part of the course, she started crying. We were speaking about all these things that we had to unlearn and how to change the process in an organization. And what she said really touched me, because she said, I can understand that in a bank, they don't have good processes, and that they maybe lose some millions or it wouldn't be that hurtful that this happens in laboratory. And she was giving all these examples of people. But every time that we're not doing a good use of our resources here, when we waste hundreds of millions of pesos, then it's thousands of children that are not finishing school or graduating. And she was crying out loud. And to me, this was so hard, because this also reinforced the important work that we're doing, and that has to do with social leaders. And this thing, it makes us reflect on our practices, and it's this thing, bringing all these practices that are sometimes very common in the private sector, but that we really need them in the social sector and in the government. We are the ones that need this the most, and we just neglect this, and we just leave it at the end. Maybe, I mean, if we have some time or some energy on Friday afternoon, we can spend some time talking about leadership or these kind of things. So yes, I think that there's something there that we have to review. There's a paradigm that we have to challenge, because yeah, we're losing something, we're missing something, and we cannot afford that. We have to think in the way that we organize each other, how we make more humane organizations, or organizations that are more connected to the goal or purpose of our own organizations. Wow, 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 wow. I love where this conversation is taking us. I love these thoughts about all of you. It's a great honor. And hopefully the others are also thinking like me. And as Gerardo is saying, all these things you're saying, you start understanding lots of things, and we're asking a lot of questions. And we're 4 minutes before finishing this session. But I'd like to know if there are any questions on the other side, if there's anything you want to share. We would really love you to tell us if you're taking something from these. I love this thing of the log that Ariel is thinking, like, let's write down on a notepad what are the actions that add value, and let's see us, acknowledge ourselves. It's very important both to acknowledge all the actions we're doing and also to celebrate them as well. And well, I have lots of things there. Well, they're saying that you like this summary, but yes, it's a very small summary of all the things that are resonating in me now. But thanks very much. Thanks very much. It was a great honor having meeting you all, sharing this space with you. And well, the floor is yours for these 3 minutes to see if there are any questions or comments, or is there anything you want to share here at the chat. So that would be welcome from everyone. Well, I'd like to share it's good to be able to keep in touch through technology. I'm very thankful and glad. And well, this morning we were thinking about being more protagonists, to be more at the center of what we're doing, and not to just be spectators or just to be seeing, to be the change we want to see. I love that. I love that. I love that idea of being more at the center. It depends on each of us, and so that organization should be doing what we think we should be doing. And I wanted to talk more about the feedback spaces of tools for things that we discussed in the poll, but to say that there are lots of ways of generating spaces for feedback, 360 spaces for feedback. And it's not just the feedback from the boss to the employee, and also for the boards of adaptability, where we have a very clear vision of where we are and that we can adapt all these and that we modify it all the time. with daily meetings where we review the plan that we have and we adjust it. And we have a recent we have frequent meetings on what we're learning and what we could do. There are methods out there, and I would invite you to Google them. Agile or practical tools. I just discussed this board, the daily meeting. If you go to it, board agile or daily meeting, I mean, you will find very good information, and we have a lot of material for you to explore as well. But how we do it, that's not the important thing. The important thing is doing it and why. I think that we had a good start there in this conversation. Well, we're about to finish. Lau wants to wrap up. Well, yes, I totally agree with everything that we've said here. And it was a great honor for me to be here. And if you have any more questions or if you want to connect as people, as human beings, I'm always available. So thanks very much, everyone. Yeah, also, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this space. These are very important places for people like me, and to thank you again. And yeah, anything you need, if I can help you, please let us know. So thanks very much. So guys, again, it was a great honor. And the last minute, like people, and even well, we're all resonating with your last word. So again, it was an honor. As Ara is saying, there's still a lot to discuss and chat, but thanks very much for all the things you shared with us. Have a great day, and bye-bye. And yeah, we still have a lot to discuss in the rest of this event. Yeah, I'm sorry for this last minute, but